Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Love the North, another segment for Beyond the Ranks, our podcast looking into our proud local military heritage. Again, tonight with me is Mike Jensen. We're continuing our look into the Veterans and First Responders Housing Project that he is championing, if that is the correct term. So tonight we are going to look at this. This is our third portion of the series. And by the way, if you do like what you're seeing, please subscribe. It really does help the channel grow, and this will help spread this very important word out to more and more people. So please support if you can. Tonight we're going to be looking at our third segment on this topic, and we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of it, the actual planning of the building and financing and all those kind of fun details that nobody wants to stick around for. As soon as somebody asks for money, everybody runs. But fortunately, Mike has had enough experience through different levels of government that he knows where to look and where to poke and prod. So hopefully that'll help ease things a little bit with all of your experience here working with the city. So tonight we are, like I said, we're going to dive into some of the figures as to how this is all going to come together. So what kind of total investment does a project like this look to get?
Monetary, it's upwards of $25 million.
Wow.
What we'll talk about tonight is how does that, what does $25 million buy you?
Right.
At the end of the day, we know it's a 60-unit apartment complex of a mix of 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom, and studio apartments. We know that a portion of that is going to be affordable for those folks that are struggling to make ends meet, generally from the veterans and first responder world. Not to say that members of the public aren't allowed to apply, but there's a prioritized list of veterans and first responders.
Perfect.
Just as a reminder, the veterans and first responders include current serving as well as retired or have left a service veterans. I call it the group of 7. So there's veterans, police, paramedics, fire. There's nurses, 911, and corrections staff.
That's excellent.
So anyone that's sort of been in a frontline role as a uniform, civilians as well. So our folks in 911, for example, they're handling all sorts of stressful calls all day long. Can be very traumatic, and some of what they, not just direct trauma, but also something called vicarious trauma. So they're carrying a lot of trauma, and it can be very detrimental to mental health.
Absolutely.
So our goal is to prioritize these folks. Not to say that, for example, I didn't mention conservation officers, but conservation officers are a frontline staff that deal with some pretty nasty situations at times. And so it's not exclusive, but generally that's the group of 7 that we're dealing with. And as I mentioned, it could be a young reservist starting out. So I'm hoping to get into the reserve unit here in town with the Irish.
Nice.
Of all of their members, a lot of them are students and they're in university and college, trying to find a place to rent in town, especially at the height of school season, because we have so many schools.
Right.
It can be hard to find an affordable place. And what you do find is sometimes, it's just a very small, you got to go outside to change your mind type thing.
Absolutely.
So these folks are eligible. We see young police officers, paramedics, nurses, they're all trying to make a go. I've got a lot of school debt, a lot of, now same for them, try and find a place to rent. So what we're saying is whether you're retired or you're currently serving, you're eligible to live. The 3 groups we see is those younger folks. We see the second main group is life's changed, 30 to 40 years old. I find myself divorced. I've got alimony. I got kids. I got lots of payments. Where am I going to find a place to live?
Yeah.
So that's the second group of folks that we see. And then the last group is the retired folks. And so the retired folks are generally they're in a home, they've paid their mortgage, they're ready to downsize. Again, where do you move? A lot of the decent places to live are in that part of the neighborhood. They're up $3,000, $3,500 a month.
They're bloody expensive.
And that doesn't always include everything. Sometimes you got to pay for your parking or other utilities. The other thing I mentioned to the mayor and others, and you and I talked a bit, Michael, about this. What this is going to do is open up 25 or 30 residential homes, standalone homes, right throughout Sudbury. And this brings in new families and an opportunity to raise your family. So I've got a couple of examples where I've got, a few seniors in their 80s. They raised 3 or 4 children in a 4-bedroom home. It's too big now. It's hard to maintain. They got to pay somebody to cut the lawn, pay somebody to, shovel the snow, maintenance and upkeep on the house. So they're looking for somewhere to move. And so the advantage is they're moving into a place that's all utilities are covered.
Right.
And if they're eligible, it could be in the neighborhood of $1,700 a month. Any dollar figures that we talk about tonight are estimates.
Yes.
So as our consultants from TWC, as they do the math and more information comes in, we'll tighten these numbers up. But for argument's sake, a 2-bedroom's around $1,700 for affordable. The 2-bedroom market rent in the neighborhood of about $2,700 to $2,800.
Okay.
So there is studio as well as 1-bedrooms. Of course, the rent's a little bit less than that, and the 3-bedrooms are going to be a little more. And so, that's an overview of the whole sort of project.
And ultimately, it is a business.
Yep.
So money in and money out have to kind of balance out. Even a registered charity, I think you had mentioned before that as CEO, you would not be eligible for any kind of income from that. However, the building would not stay open very long if it wasn't at least paying its own bills. Yeah. Correct?
Yep.
So for that $25 million that you mentioned right off the hop, that has to start with acquisition of land.
That's right.
If I'm
there's a couple of steps that we're looking at right now. So after the sort of bubble burst on the idea, now we got to start getting our affairs in order to figure out. There was a piece of land that we looked at. The current owner is considering selling it. So you want to build a building, you need land.
Absolutely.
And so that's the first step, is to acquire land. And so we're going through that right now with the current owner to try and figure out what works. Our dollar figures and the consultants have, what they're looking at is how much revenue is going to come in versus how much has to go out, either long, medium, or short term.
Right.
So mortgages and whatnot, the funding from the government, nothing's for free. So we recently found out that we are eligible for a $10 million loan from a financial institute.
Nice.
At a market sort of price for mortgage as far as percentage is concerned. And it's over a 50-year amortization. So 50 years. It's important to have in affordable builds that you have these longer amortizations, because it allows you to extend a little bit less rent over a longer period of time. So that's what makes it affordable.
Yeah.
You have that very long, we're going to be long gone after, in 50 years' time.
Yeah, absolutely.
At any rate.
But that's a hell of a legacy to leave behind.
Well, for sure.
By the way.
Yeah. Thanks. I'm not doing it for that.
No.
We're doing it because there's a need.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's get some veterans housed. Let's get some first responders and everybody that's, the hardworking folks that
served us.
They signed their lives on the dotted line. Yeah. And it's the least we could do is to figure this out. So the land acquisition that we're looking at right now is somewhere in the magnitude of $1.5 to $2 million. So I'm getting the answer to your question. Where does 25 or 27 million? What does it buy you these days?
Yep.
So $10 million mortgage. That's our stake in the game. So the government won't loan money unless the corporation has a stake of its own in the game.
Right.
So what we're proposing is $10 million. So that'll be a 50-year mortgage. Then Build Canada Homes is what we're shooting for.
Okay.
This is the newest product the Liberal government has got out.
So that's a federal.
It's a federal, federal. So the remainder of the funds, the majority of it will be from Build Canada Homes, but there's also some other smaller. We're trying to secure some liquidity with others. The province, the municipality is they know what they'll do for affordable builds. So, for example, in town, and you hear it often, development charges. Development charges on a building like we're building in that part of town. I was some of my peer group when I was with the city indicated to me per unit. That's a 60 unit. A per unit is somewhere in the magnitude of $30,000 to $40,000 or more.
Jeez.
Per unit. So how can you do an affordable? You're coming out of the gate and you're already in debt.
Multiple millions.
For multiple millions of dollars. So how does it work? You can't go affordable.
Now, is that like permits and?
It includes a few things that we'll talk about as we get through. So there's different sort of buckets of money.
Right.
Right. I kind of grouped them all together.
Okay.
The spreadsheet that the consultant did for us is quite lengthy and involved. But what I did was sort of glean over and say, okay, that belongs in this bucket. This goes over here in this bucket.
I like your line of thinking.
Yeah. So just to keep it easy for me.
Yeah.
So, $1.5 to $2 million, that's our go-to. That's what we sort of have allowance for. If it's more than that, we might have to seek some private funding. What I like about the property we're looking at right now, it needs a permit update, but it's pretty much ready to go. So the current owner went through all of the site plan application, and it's what they call shovel ready.
Nice.
That's a term that Build Canada Homes is leaning on. They want shovel ready projects. So one can imagine we can get, and I did talk to a few people. There's some property out there for 800,000, another one for 1.2. That really helps us as far as when you're doing the math on the mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the properties are a little bigger, so you can build more space,
Right.
which means there's more coming in. At the end, we're going to talk about how we're going to pay for all this.
Right.
So the problem is that's going to set us back at least 2 years. So Sudbury, you got to do a lot of drilling and blasting.
Right.
You got to do a lot of land clearing and leveling. You got to get the services in there. This land that we're currently looking at might cost us a little more than what's available, but it's ready to go.
It's ready.
And so most of the experts I've talked to said, you could pay $800,000 for land, but in the end of the day, once all the work is done, you're going to be in the $2 to $3 million range. So are we money ahead to go that route? And it's going to delay the project.
Yeah.
Right? So,
yeah.
So right now we've got all our eggs in this one parcel of land. We're hopeful that it'll work out. So we're currently negotiation stage with the current owner, trying to come to an agreeable purchase price that we can both be happy with.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's the first part. Soft costs. So there's the sort of two larger buckets are soft costs and hard costs.
Right.
The soft costs are in the amount of $2.3 million. That means legal fees, site application updates, building permits, consultants, architects, insurances, taxes, and contingency money. So every project has contingency. That's in case you forgot something.
Mm-hmm.
So if you forgot something, you've got a little bit of money.
Right.
You're not going to make the project go belly up because you didn't have a little bit of contingency.
Right.
So they work that into the model as well. It's usually a percentage of the total amount. So it's at around $2.3 million. Wow. The next one is construction costs. And so that's the cost per square foot. So anybody in the construction business, they know almost, community to community, what's the cost of construction of an apartment building in Toronto versus Sudbury versus North Bay versus the Soo. So they all have unique sort of price points on how you can build. A lot of it has to do with pressure on how many constructors are in town. So if there's not as many constructors, the price goes up because now you're paying a higher value.
Yeah.
If there's lots of constructors and not a lot of work, well, then the square footage price goes down.
Nice.
So it all depends on the market, right? So there's a lot of factors in there. Hydro works, probably going to need a transformer and some other, get hooked up to hydro and that sort of thing. And then again, contingency. Those costs are in the magnitude of $24 million.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's, anywhere between sort of 20 and so there's a little bit of give and take there. Yeah. We get some rebates from the city. That looks favorable for us. We get a little bit of forgiveness on the land price. That's favorable. The soft costs, maybe some is covered. So that's what we're looking for. These are sort of what we hope is worst case scenarios.
Yes.
At the end of the day, now that's all construction and soft costs to get the thing built, but somebody has to operate the thing. So operations and maintenance on an annual basis is somewhere in the magnitude of $1.2 million. So that's snow removal, repair the drywall, dry clean the carpets, whatever comes along. I need a new air conditioner, whatever happens in a building,
right.
That has to be considered as an annual, it has to be factored into the rent. So we're estimating $1 to $1.2 million there. There will be paid staff. So you need somebody to run the outfit, some sort of worker bees and that sort of thing. So they'll be, if not full-time, they'll be on a part-time basis.
Right.
So those are paid positions through, you mentioned the board of directors, myself and my vice president and the director at large. We're not eligible for funding. So we're doing it here because it's the right thing to do, not because we want to make money.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially you have to pay an expert, the accountant. You got to have, the
property manager,
the manager, and all that stuff has to be handled. So it's not for free.
No.
So about $1.2 million there. And then there's the interest buyback as well. So all of these loans and everything that I'm talking about, there's interest on that. So they have to factor in that interest amount, not just the mortgage that you're paying, but also one half is the mortgage, the other half is the interest. Sources for funding so far, we're looking at Build Canada Homes. So that's the newest tool that the Carney Liberals have brought out in order to, and they're promoting affordable builds. So there's a lot of money available. It's usually renewed in the new year. I don't know exactly where we're sitting right now with regards to how much money is left in the fund for this year. We're hopeful that it's going to move into next fiscal year as well if we don't get our loans secured in this fiscal year. So
Right.
we're hopeful for this year, and if not, Plan B on fiscally will be into 2027. Municipal grants and rebates. So a lot of money back in that sort of thing. Development charges, for example. These are in the tens of thousands of dollars per unit.
Mm-hmm.
And for affordable builds, the municipality has a process. They've got a couple of funds, Healthy Initiatives Campaign and a few other Healthy Community Initiative Plan, a few other things that they get money from both the provincial government as well as the federal government, I believe. And so the other levels of government give them this money, and they say allocate it where it needs to go in order to meet the demands of your city. So a lot of these things are not necessarily free. They've just got, and so taxpayers and water rate payers can take note that it's not coming out of your pocket, this portion. It's being paid. It's still being paid. It's just not being paid by you as a taxpayer or a water rate payer. It's being paid by other levels of government that are sponsoring these projects. So they have to meet a certain criteria. There has to be a certain number of affordable living, the sort of steps you have to get through to get there. And then the institutional mortgage, that's somewhere all adding up in the magnitude of $25 to $27 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what kind of time frame?
Well, and we haven't given up on this yet. We're hopeful to have people moving in by Christmas of 2027.
Wow, that's
so it's still pretty ambitious.
Yeah.
All the professionals I'm working with so far tell me it's still achievable. That's what we're shooting for. Outside, we're into 2028. So we're shooting for end of 2027.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how that goes. It all hinges on acquisition of property, acquisition of the loans, the funding from the government. There's a lot of things that have to happen in order.
Everything has to fall into place.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll continue to march towards that. And if we need to extend the date, like they say, it is what it is. If we don't get money until 2027, then maybe that, so we haven't really set a hard target as far as the date's concerned. That'll become a little more clear, sort of rubbing the crystal ball. It'll become a little more clear when we start getting the things I talked about, all the steps we have to get through.
Just the fact that you're doing it is a better timetable than anybody else has.
Sure.
That is for damn sure.
Yeah. And I say that sometimes, some folks are just critical, good, bad, and ugly. But I always say, well, what have you done to help with, homelessness and experiencing homelessness in the veteran community, helping out our first responders that are maybe not on the greatest pension, and they're,
it usually a good place.
It usually stops the conversation pretty quick.
Absolutely.
And then it's usually followed by, hey, how'd you like to help? Right. So be part of the solution. Instead of part of the problem. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anyways, we have varying levels of partnerships with members of the community and veterans and that sort of thing.
But looking at the game plan, if you will, the project, once it's up and running, will be self-sustaining.
Yep. So the rents now, so that's all money out, short term and long term.
Right.
Money in is the rents, right? So the folks that are living in the building, that's to the magnitude of about $1.5 million. That pays for the operations and maintenance costs. It pays for all the things that we need to do in order to get the mortgage paid and that kind of thing. So on completion, what we're hoping for is about a 40-60 or a 50-50 split between the market rent and the affordable.
Nice.
And so the two sums of rents that are coming in are, when you do the balance sheet, it has to equal out, and hopefully a little more on our side. As a not-for-profit or as a charity, generally it's $0. It's a zero-sum game for these folks. There's no money being made.
Right.
There is some allowance. I've talked to some NFP and charity folks before, and there is some allowance for contingency. So if something breaks down, you're allowed to have a bit of a, and it might be a requirement under Bill Cannon Homes to have a certain percentage every year.
Right.
So the stove breaks, the air conditioner breaks, whatever, you've got money. You don't have to come back to the table looking for more money.
Right.
So that's part of the model. And then some of that, as well as the equity in the building, is going to allow us to move to another building. So we haven't got there yet, but I'm, sort of looking forward, saying this is a very ambitious plan. I get it, but this is the beta test, I call it.
Right.
Once this one's up and running, we're going to move.
Yeah. Now you've got the game plan.
Yes, and we've got a footprint. We understand the rules. We know the end sum game. Maybe here in Sudbury, if there's a high demand, but we're thinking North Bay, possibly Timmins, other parts of the province. There are some other veteran type organizations out there that have tiny homes, and I talked to Brad Fields from Homes for Heroes, for example. When these folks they go through a rehab process and they're ready to move out in the community, they can't find anywhere to live. So what I said to Brad is, maybe that should be our spot for our next building, so that when these folks are ready to move out on their own, they can move into an affordable space built for veterans and first responders. So there's going to be some synergy there, I think, between various, these groups are already well established.
Right.
We're fledgling, kind of, everybody sees the goslings out there kind of floating around and trying to figure it all out. We're at that stage.
Right.
We're definitely not up in the flock there, but there's a lot of folks that went through this growing pains that we're going through now.
They made it.
And so there's some synergies to be made there for
Yep.
sure. Yeah. Anyways, that's our plan.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That is one hell of a torch to bear, and I hope you all the success in the world. I had mentioned earlier, I definitely want to stay on top of this. I want to have you back anytime there's any kind of significant milestone, just to let the public know what's going on. I think this is the greatest cause that I can think of, at least happening in this town.
I appreciate it.
And we appreciate all of your efforts. I'm sure the veterans do as well.
Yeah.
And
I get a lot of phone calls and emails. How's it going? Where are we at? When are we moving in? I've got a list of about 30 or 35 already out of the 60 units. So
that is fantastic.
And they're pretty much spoken for.
That's awesome.
Right. Direct appeal to members of the public that might be listening. Donations are greatly appreciated.
And there's a website to go to for the donations.
Veterans and First Responders.ca. And there's a donate now button. There's also a survey there. If you contact on the survey, you can fill out the forms. It sends an email directly to me when you hit complete. And then I can add your name to the distribution list for regular updates, as well as
for people that are seeking housing.
Seeking housing.
Okay, perfect.
Yep. So some of the questions are now, medium term, long term. About 25 or 30 are now. So people are interested in, they'd like to move.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So you can donate directly there. You hit donate now, it goes directly into our bank account, and any amount is appreciated, because like I say, there's some costs that we're going to have to bear somehow through donations and fundraisers.
Right.
Because we're not going to get everything 100%. So at any rate, we would appreciate any donation at all.
Anytime that there's any kind of fundraiser or anything like that going on, please don't hesitate. Call us. So I want to get the word out there as soon as we can.
I will, for sure.
And I'm so excited about this project. I think it's such a wonderful thing, and we can't thank you enough.
Well, thanks for having me on, Michael. I appreciate
absolutely.
it.
Anytime, Mike. Thank you again.